In this episode, we're going to be looking at the twin flame dynamics, what they are, what's going on within that on an energetic, on a spiritual level, a differing perspective than what's been put out there. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Hi and welcome to Oaklaw Door. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claire Attio. For those that are returning subscribers, thank you. And the twin flame dynamics, I was in meditation and a visualization came through this morning, and it was interesting because I've always been one to say you don't go chasing a twin flame dynamic. There has been a lot of information out there that is glamourized the whole twin flame journey and relationship as if it's the be all and end all. And like shadow work, I would say don't chase it. If it comes to you, then it's part of your journey, but we can get an idea of what it's like from the title. It's called twin flame. Now flame, yes, can be very passionate, but it can also burn. And that's why I say don't chase it, because within a twin flame dynamic, there is a lot of learning, there is a lot of introspection, deep introspection, challenging introspection on both sides. The visualization that I was actually shown this morning, and it was interesting because it went back to when I did my firewalking instructor, and for those that follow me, you'll know that it's been an ongoing process of me gaining and learning and growing and developing my insight into that balancing, alchemizing those two powerful energies of fire and water, and those elements of fire and water. And it dropped in a few days ago that fire and water are us, that it's our physical, and then the air and earth is obviously heaven and earth. So that was the first thing that kind of dropped in. And so our job as a physical earthly vessel is to learn to balance, to alchemize the fire and water. Heaven and earth have already balanced that, but it's balancing ourselves, that fire and water within each of us, and then balancing ourselves with heaven and earth. And so we've got that cyclical thing going on. But when it comes to the twin flame, it was in the visualization that I was actually given. And I apologize if I keep going backwards and forwards, it's because the information is coming in. As I said, it came in with a visualization this morning, and I was just like, wow. And I was like, oh, that'd make a good video. I can do that in a few days when I've had time to. And Spirit was like, no, you do it, and you do it now. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I'm just doing as I'm bidding. So if I'm going backwards and forwards, then apologies for that. And from what I've actually, when Spirit has me do this, what I've actually kind of clocked is very often some really poignant information will drop in, usually kind of as we're coming to a close, which always makes me chuckle. So I would say if you do have interest in trying to discover and learn a little bit more about the twin flame journey, then stay to the end. Remember, these are my perspectives. These are what I've been given. Always use your discernment. But what I was shown this morning was when we build fires for firewalks, the wood that we choose is very important. And so you're not mixing the woods, because different woods, different species of woods burn at different grades. And obviously what we don't want is we don't want people burning their feet. Now, what they were showing me was that each fire has its tenders, and that the logs represented our etheric body, our spiritual body, our souls. And within the ceremony of firewalking, we do give blessings to the fire, and we do make prayers, and we do a lot of releasing work as well within that. And so the logs are the representation of that emotional body, that etheric body, that spiritual body, that soul within us all. And then we have fire tenders. And what they showed me were the fire tenders were the twin flame dynamics here on Earth. And what they were showing me, because what we actually do within firewalking, those that are the tenders, they actually tend the fire, but they also know, they have the experience that whatever's going on in the therapy room, whatever learning, whatever aha moments, whatever emotions that are coming up, whatever's being released will energetically show itself in the fire. And that could look like logs jumping out, or the fire collapsing in. There's a whole array of different dynamics. But the twin flames were the two tenders of those fires. And within a twin flame dynamic, yes, there's a lot to learn. And I know because twin flame dynamic has been part of my journey, and I know when I was kind of first finding out about it, discovering it, walking that path, I found it very difficult because it was glamourised. It was like, oh, you're lucky enough to have a twin flame. I was like, this doesn't feel like luck to me. But I was under the illusion of the chaser runner dynamics, and that once that has kind of completed itself, it switches back. The problem with that is, in my mind, my interpretation of that is that you stick it out and stick it out and stick it out and stick it out. I didn't realize it should have been a relay race. There should have been that reciprocity. I just thought, okay, this is a twin flame dynamics, and I have to do X, Y, and Z because this is my position, and they're going to do X, Y, and Z because that's their position. And when we run that course, we swap back. No, that is not how it works. What should be happening, and what Spirit has actually been saying to me, and it was interesting because just before I came on to do the video, my throat chakra started, and that is something I am going to do a video later in the week about that. But the throat chakra, it started getting tight and itchy, and I was like, oh, you don't want me to talk about this then, do you? There are those polarity energies that don't want us discussing and really getting into the nitty-gritty of the dynamics of what's going on energetically. What we should be doing is, yes, we do have those positions in a twin flame dynamics, but it should be, I have something that I need to heal and I need to release, and so one is the runner, one is the chaser, and when that aspect has been learnt, has been healed, has been released, you swap. And so you've got that continual reciprocity going on, so that you're both learning and growing. And this is, as I said, it was my interpretation from the information that was out there, that no, you just are just in one position and you stay in that position until the course is complete. I don't believe that to be true. As I said, I believe it to be, yes, there is those chaser runner dynamics, but as in with all healthy relationships, it should be chaser runner, do the healing, do the learning, get the aha moments, do the releasing, and then swap around so the other one can do what they want to do, and there is that continual switching as you walk the path together. So that was the first point. The second point within it was that many people have, and I've heard it time and time again, and I'm still hearing it, which is like, no, it's the twin flame journey is described like they're the same soul. And what I would actually say, and this was again what came back to the firewalking and the logs, is, and what I said right at the beginning, the twin flame journey is described as two halves of the same soul. And that makes me cringe so much, because if you're two halves, you're never going to be whole. And again, and it feeds into that romanticism. Oh yes, my soul is whole now. And you put up with all sorts of ish that you shouldn't do. And I'm not saying every twin flame journey is a disaster. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being that pessimistic, but what I wanted to get across is that we need to be very mindful about the power that we are giving some of these labels, because that's what they are. The labels are describing energetic dynamics of aspects of the soul sovereignty journey, or it lifting our souls, raising to those higher levels of consciousness, whatever you subscribe to, however you believe it, and also whatever your soul past life experience is, because that is something else that comes into the dynamics of it all. As to what you will experience this life will depend on what you've experienced and learned in past soul existences. And so some things that are meant for one in this life will not be meant for another. And I think this is something else we need to be very careful of, because people are chasing things that aren't even part of their destiny this lifetime. Or they're looking across their shoulder, which goes back to the video that I said a few weeks ago, stay in your own goddamn lane, because they're looking over their shoulder and go, oh, and it's not even part of their journey. You just do your journey. You do your journey. You add to the collective in such a positive way. I don't believe in that two parts of the same soul analogy. That is my personal belief. That is what I have been shown by divine. Again, you need to use your own discernment. You need to attune and have your conversations with your team and with divine, with God, with Allah, with the universe. What I believe and what I was shown this morning to really explain this is what I was saying. We use the same species of wood, and if you get a rogue wood in there and you don't have the experience to know the different types of woods, you will quite merrily add that to the fire, which could have really detrimental effects, results. The whole point of firewalking is to raise our levels of consciousness, raise the levels of awareness within us, to release energies, to receive healing from the elements. And so we want it to be a pleasurable experience. We don't want it to have we don't really want those adverse effects. When it comes to the fire tending and the twin flames, and this goes back to the runner chaser, because if you've got a continual runner chaser dynamics, you've only got one fire tender working. And if you've got 2 or 3 or more fires going, because you've got a big group walking, then that fire tender is having to do all the work, and it's not able to give and honor the energies and the dynamics of those energies and the emotions of those energies that are showing up within that fire. And you could easily, you cannot be in two places at once. And if you've got one fire tender that's not actually working, they're not doing what they were there to do because they're too busy running, what you're going to have is you're going to have, as the energies build, as those dynamics start to build, as that connection with divine and all that healing power comes from earth and heaven, you're going to have rogue logs that roll off the fire and have the potential, if unattended, to create a whole forest fire, create so much destruction. Or the other case scenario, that it rolls off into the river and its light gets snuffed out. Those are the two extremes, but I'm saying that so I hope you can actually understand why it's so important that both in the twin flame dynamic are working in unison, that there's reciprocity. It's like in a physical scenario, the fire tender goes off and says, will you keep an eye on my fire? And they go off to the loo, and the other one go, yeah, and they don't. And one of the logs have split off, or there's been an ember that's flown off, and there's it's hit some dry leaves over yonder, and another fire is starting to ignite over there completely unnoticed, and is so close to the building that if it goes unchecked for any amount of time, then complete destruction occurs. A twin flame dynamic is about learning, is about growing. It can very often also include healing for the lineages. You made a pact to come together because there are usually heavy aspects within your lineages that need cleaning up, clearing up. It needs healing, releasing, forgiveness applied, that learning. And that is another reason why I say do not chase the twin flame dynamics. But it was, for me, it was really interesting this morning when they gave me the whole fire analogy, because it made so much sense for me. If you find yourself in a twin flame dynamic, just step back, take a breather and go, okay, are we having that reciprocity? Are we swapping roles as we walk this path? Or has it turned into a karmic relationship? Because I think this is the other aspect, is we're very loath to, we're very quick to give it the labels that we perceive to be very glamorous, but we're not so quick to give it the labels that it actually deserves. And I say labels a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because we don't want to get into the scenario where we're just labeling people and we're not using our consciousness. We are not tapping into our intuition. We are not in that connection and getting the guidance from divine. We use labels just as a description so that other people can understand and we can start to understand. But it's imperative that we sit with ourselves and go, okay, what does this actually mean for me? What am I supposed to be doing with this? What do you want me to do with this, divine? There are situations like mine where you will be on that path and it will be dysfunctional, it will be karmic, but you are guided to stay there. There are other times where you feel that there is much more potential, and your team, your communications with divine tell you to get the hell out and get out now. We are each different. That is why it's so important to attune yourselves, listen to your intuition, listen to divine, listen to the guidance you are given, and then take the aligned action. As I said, this is my perspective. There will be people that disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. That's what makes the world interesting. That is how we all learn and grow. I am not saying this is I'm saying this is my perspective, and I wanted to give a differing perspective to all the romanticism that is out there. I'm a believer that the label usually tells you everything, and the label says twin flame, flames burn. Okay? Do they give us passion? Do they give us light? Yes. And that's that heightened, that light that comes in is that heightened learning, that opportunity to learn, to grow, to expand with passion. But it also can burn. Don't just take the good, leave the crud, and then go, why? Be honest with yourselves. Be true to yourselves. And listen to yourselves and divine. If you've not yet subscribed, hit that button, and I shall see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.